Good evening, you are watching ReNEWS in English. I am Sona Tumanyan. From Kılıç's visit to Armenia to the murder of Lenin, first a brief on the important news. Black Sea access on the table. Turkish envoy Kılıç's landmark visit to Armenia sparks hope and speculation. U.S. greenlights $145 million to kickstart Armenia's Trump trip project. Armenia's defense chief hosts key NATO ambassadors for high-stakes talks. The hunt for Kirk's killer inside the explosive investigation with a $100,000 reward on the table. A new phase in diplomatic relations between Armenia and Turkey is beginning, particularly in the context of developing Armenia-Azerbaijan relations. Turkey's special representative for the normalization process, Serdar Kılıç, has arrived in Armenia. He crossed the border at the Margara checkpoint, where he was welcomed by his Armenian counterpart, Deputy Speaker of Parliament Ruben Rubinian, before they proceeded to Yerevan.
Ruben Rubinian welcomed his Turkish counterpart at Margara and accompanied him to Yerevan. Serdar Kılıç, the special representative for the normalization process of Turkey-Armenia relations, was in Armenia to discuss Armenian-Turkish relations. The day before, Anadolu Agency published excerpts from an interview with the official upon his arrival in Edir.
Today, they have made a statement that they are ready to open the border. Of course, they have a positive attitude towards what is beneficial for everyone. Before implementing some projects, it is necessary to carry out a series of technical works, but in terms of intentions, we have no problems.
He also noted that they will jointly discuss the opportunities and decide together what can be done for the economic life of the two countries, particularly for this region. According to Kılıç, Armenia has always had a positive attitude toward opening the Armenian-Turkish border and having access to the Black Sea through Turkish territory. The Turkish official also spoke about transport links.
This communication line is especially important. The Zengezur line is important not only for Armenia and Turkey, but also for all of Central Asia and the Turkic republics in terms of opening new opportunities. In accordance with the instructions of the President of Turkey, we want to open this line in the short term and contribute to the economies of both countries, particularly to the development of Igdir and Kars.
This afternoon, Kılıç published words of thanks for the warm reception in Armenia. Representatives of the ARF Youth Wing gathered near the government building to protest the Turkish envoy's visit.
The United States is set to provide Armenia with $145 million in a significant move to bolster regional connectivity, with the funds aimed at developing crucial trade infrastructure and strengthening border security. The funding represents the first tranche of U.S. support for the Trans-Caspian Intermodal Transit Transport Trip, a strategic project designed to open new trade corridors. The details emerged from a high-level meeting in Yerevan between Armenia Deputy Prime Minister Meher Grigoryan and Brendan Hanrahan, a senior official from the U.S. State Department's Bureau of European and Eurasian Affairs. Hanrahan emphasized that the purpose of the support is to make investments in trade infrastructure, critical mineral supply chains, and border security. The discussions also covered broader regional developments and ongoing efforts to unblock long-closed transportation links. In response, Deputy Prime Minister Grigoryan expressed optimism that joint efforts would successfully advance bilateral relations, building on a previously signed memorandum of understanding between Armenia and the United States.
The United States will provide $145 million in assistance to Armenia. In Yerevan, Brendan Hanrahan, head of the State Department's Bureau of European and Eurasian Affairs, emphasized that the aid is aimed at investments in trade, infrastructure, critical mineral supply chains, and cross-border security.
The first portion of the funding is directed towards the implementation of the Trump's Trip for International Peace and Prosperity project and the related agreements reached on August 8th.
The American envoy discussed regional developments and the prospects for unblocking communications with Deputy Prime Minister Meher Grigoryan. The same delegation had previously traveled to Azerbaijan, but no announcement of financial assistance was made there.
I assume they didn't discuss it in Baku because Azerbaijan has already built a section of that road. I don't rule out that this was the sole reason because in essence, a road is already built and Baku does not need additional financial resources, whereas Armenia might need them to construct its part.
After his visit to Azerbaijan, Kenneth Angel, CEO of the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, stated that the trip is a critical element of the future peace agreement to be signed between Azerbaijan and Armenia. He said it would serve to reunite regions of Azerbaijan that, in his words, have long been separated by distance.
On one side, Russia and Iran do not want this corridor to open. Turkey, however, supports its opening. Armenia is also interested in this process as it would be profitable for them to collect customs duties on goods transported along the route.
According to the American studies expert, the United States has had its own priorities in our region since the early 1990s, one of which has been to reduce Russian influence and to acquire and apply certain leverage over Iran.
Armenia is trying to at least convince Russia and Iran that they will face no danger or harm from this. How successful the Armenian authorities will be in this, or how convincing they will be for Iran and Russia, is a completely different question.
On the same day, Hikmet Hajiev, assistant to the president of Azerbaijan, met with Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Langdow in Washington. The diplomats discussed the establishment of a strategic partnership between Azerbaijan and the U.S. According to the official statement, regional developments were also on the agenda. Trump's trip was not mentioned, but it was likely within the scope of the negotiations. The specifics of the control to be implemented on the trip remain unclear in Armenia. Edward Hakapian, chairman of the State Revenue Committee, reaffirmed in the National Assembly that an Armenian customs service will operate at the road junction known as Trump's trip. The chairman was responding to a clarifying question about the nature of the road and whether the rules of the Eurasian Economic Union would apply to it.
As for the details, they are still under discussion, but I also stated during my interview that, nevertheless, regardless of that, our general customs policy is total, meaning we are carrying out reforms at all our borders in the direction of trade facilitation.
Meanwhile, Armenia's first president, Levin Ter-Petrosyan, stated that the term Zangezur corridor raises certain fears among active segments of our society. Therefore, he argued it is more appropriate to use the term Zangezur transport hub, control over which must be exercised exclusively by Armenia. According to him, on this issue, Armenia, willingly or not, expects the active cooperation of its strategic partners, Russia, the U.S., and Iran.
The U.S. State Department delegation visited the Armenian Genocide Memorial, laying flowers at the Eternal Flame. Brendan Hanrahan, head of the Bureau of European and Eurasian Affairs, placed a wreath at the monument and observed a minute of silence to honor the innocent victims. During the visit, the director of the Armenian Genocide Museum Institute, Adi Dagzoyan, briefed the American diplomats on the memorials dedicated to victims of later events. She highlighted the 3 khachkars, or as we know, cross stones, commemorating Armenians killed in massacres in Azerbaijan at the end of the last century, and the stories of freedom fighters from the Artsakh conflict buried at the complex, emphasizing the connection between these tragedies and the Armenian genocide. Meanwhile, after a visit to Azerbaijan, Kenneth Allen, CEO of the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, declared that the tree brood is a key element of a future peace agreement between Azerbaijan and Armenia. He noted it would serve to reconnect regions of Azerbaijan that have long been geographically separated. On one side, Russia, and on the other, Iran do not want this corridor to open. Turkey supports the opening of the corridor, Allen stated. Armenia is also interested in this process, as it would be profitable for them to receive customs duties for goods transported on the route. Separately, on the same day, Hikmet Hajiev, an AD to the president of Azerbaijan, met in Washington with Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Langdow to discuss establishing a strategic partnership between Azerbaijan and the United States. The Ministry of Defense has submitted a draft law for public discussions proposing to reduce the term of mandatory military service to 18 months. The proposal is justified as part of the government's 2021-2026 program, which aims to shorten conscription by increasing the number of contract soldiers. According to the draft, the change would apply starting from the summer 2026 conscription. A future broadcast will cover the potential advantages and risks of the bill. On September 12, the Minister of Defense of the Republic of Armenia, Suren Papikyan, received ambassadors from a number of countries accredited to NATO. Minister Papikian presented the ongoing defense reforms and the transformation process of the armed forces within that framework, emphasizing the important role of NATO in this area. During the meeting, the progress and development prospects of the Armenia-NATO partnership were discussed, as well as issues related to regional and international security. By the way, Prime Minister Pashinyan also met with visiting NATO-accredited ambassadors to discuss cooperation with the North Atlantic Alliance. Both sides noted the importance of developing and continuing their collaboration. Pashinyan presented Armenia's policy on strengthening peace and stability and referred to the Washington Declaration signed between Armenia and Azerbaijan. The ambassadors highly prized the partnership with Armenia. Overnight, Ukrainian drones struck Russia, targeting the Primorsk oil port in the Leningrad region, causing an explosion and fire. Moscow was also targeted. Dozens of drones were shot down, and the St. Petersburg airport was temporarily closed. Russia and Belarus have launched large-scale joint military exercises Zapad 2025 near NATO borders. The drills are taking place amid high tensions in the Ukraine war and following a recent drone incident with Poland. While the Kremlin claims the exercises are not a threat, the West views them as a provocation. French President Emmanuel Macron has announced that he will send 3 Rafale fighter jets to protect Poland's airspace. He emphasized that European security is a top priority and that France will not give in to Russian intimidation. According to Gaza's health authorities, in the last 24 hours, Israeli attacks have killed 72 people and wounded 356. An additional 7 people, including a child, have died from starvation and malnutrition. The UN Security Council condemned the recent strikes on Doha. Qatar and other nations accuse Israel of undermining peace talks, while Israel's diplomats stated that terrorists are not safe anywhere. The Council urged de-escalation, a ceasefire, and the release of hostages as top priorities. From a decades-old assassination that still resonates to a new political murder that has shaken the nation, the United States is once again confronting the specter of targeted violence. The story of John Lennon's murder remains a haunting chapter in American culture. The beloved peace activist and former Beatle gunned down by an obsessed fan he had graciously given an autograph to only hours before. On that cold December night in 1980, Chapman waited for Lennon to return to his New York home before killing him. Today, that assassin was denied parole for the 14th time, ensuring he remains behind bars. While that historic crime is once again in the headlines, authorities are grappling with a shocking new assassination. An intense manhunt is underway for the killer of Charlie Kirk, with the FBI releasing dramatic footage of the suspect's rooftop escape. A $100,000 reward is on the table as the nation confronts a crime chillingly reminiscent of the recent attack on Donald Trump.
Charlie often spoke at universities. The fatal shot was fired as Kirk was answering questions from students. His last speech was at the first stop of his 14-city fall American comeback tour. It included Kirk's well-known Prove Me Wrong table, where he invited opponents to debate various topics.
We heard two pops and we ran, and a lot of people ran with us. When I was standing by the door kind of overseeing what was happening, some people were standing there still taking videos. So I went back out to look over the railing to see like maybe someone just did some firecrackers, something like that.
Officials from the Utah Department of Public Safety believe the shooter fired from the roof of a building near the university campus.
Today at approximately 12:20 Mountain Standard Time, political influencer Charlie Kirk was shot in an event at the Utah Valley University. He was taken by private vehicle to Timpanogos Hospital, where he later passed. The Utah Department of Public Safety will be co-leading this criminal investigation to find this killer, along with the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
I would just ask everyone everywhere to please pray for their. I've been in touch with President Trump, with FBI Director Kash Patel. We are completely aligned with our state and federal partners as we work through this case. Now, this is a dark day for our state. It's a tragic day for our nation. And I want to be very clear that this is a political assassination.
The conservative Kirk had many followers in the U.S., especially among young people.
I was 4 people in front of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was one of my greatest heroes, and I looked up to him a lot. Role model. He was a role model of mine.
I admire Charlie Kirk for his ability to speak with people, and he was very. He wasn't so confrontational, as maybe some people say. He worked with people. He talked to people. He was very opinionated, obviously.
The president, as well as dozens of Kirk's supporters, and even Democrats who strongly disagreed with Charlie, are expressing their condolences to his family.
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America.
Trump compared Charlie's murder to the assassination attempt against himself and promised to find and punish those responsible. There are also reactions from the European Union.
The European Union condemns all forms of violence, and we offer our sincere sympathies to the families of the victims of this tragic incident, and we hope that the perpetrators are brought to justice.
Kirk held controversial views. He was in favor of the right to bear arms, criticized Martin Luther King Jr., calling his actions a huge mistake, promoted the view that COVID-19 was a virus created in Chinese laboratories, and was against abortion rights.
Why is it that the 6-week baby is of less moral worth?
Well, first of all, it's not a baby, it's a fetus.
Well, what does fetus mean?
A fetus is in utero.
What does fetus mean in Latin?
What the f***? I'm sorry, is this a language class?
It means little human being.
His smile is just terrifying. Hours after Kirk's murder, 2 people were arrested but were later released. Utah officials stated that the arrested individuals had no connection to the shooting. Ani Hovanesian, ReOpen Media.
This much for today. Stay informed with ReNews and have a nice weekend. I'm Sona Tumanyan.